black labels look great on tables. They're terrible in retail because they disappear in a set amongst wines. So the packaging is important, and I like the fact that we rate that, because sometimes you think everything is great about this wine. You see the packaging, you're just like, oh God, I can't pour that. It's got like a laughing iguana on the label or something. It's just ridiculous for the setting of my restaurant.
Hey guys, this is Sid Patel, live from Sommeliers Choice Awards and Beverage Trade Network. We are in San Francisco right now on day 3 of Sommeliers Choice Awards. I have Scott Barber here with me. He's a master sommelier and president of Green Beans. That's a company which Scott really uses for consulting side of his business. So Scott, thanks for joining here.
Hey, great to be here.
Great.
We'll take a break from the judging.
Yeah, super. You've
in the middle of a really nice flight though.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Nice.
some good wines.
Which one are you
we're doing Galician, Spanish and Portuguese whites.
Nice.
Really refreshing.
Super.
Nice.
Super.
Yeah.
Let me just ask you about the judging, right?
Yeah.
You've been evaluating and you've been judging a lot of competitions around the world. I want to ask you about Sommeliers Choice Awards. The whole idea about this competition was to really benchmark wines for the restaurants. Mm-hmm. So what do you think about, the judging process, and what are you discovering here?
Well, I really enjoy the format. I think the format, just from the nuts and bolts about how the flights come out in manageable numbers, you change from topic to topic so you don't get overwhelmed, your palate doesn't get fatigued, which is often a problem with competitions. You'll taste 40 wines of the same type, and that can just be overwhelming, and it affects your judgment of the wines as you go through the day, I think. This keeps it fresh, and it keeps your mind and palate nimble to really be able to assess the wines accurately. I also really like the format, the scoring with the food friendliness, the value, the quality, all being separate. And then there isn't the haggling around the table about one person wants to give this medal, one person wants to give that. It's all just data driven based on the scores, averaged out. So I think it's a really fair assessment of the wines.
Great.
I think it's very refreshing. I enjoy it.
How do you advise wineries, who are trying to grow into the US market, who have entered in Sommeliers Choice and won double gold, bronze, silver? How can they market it? How can they storytell it to buyers like yourself?
Well, the thing I think that separates this competition from a lot of others, and being a buyer, a lot of times you see awards from various different competitions, you kind of don't give them too much credit. But I think the fact that this is coming from active buyers, so people are making recommendations. It's kind of like talking to your friends or saying, hey, this is a really cool wine, you should know about it, which is a lot of the way we get information. Or if you see something on 3 or 4 lists that you respect, you kind of think, oh, I should pay attention to this because people who taste like I do feel that way. So this is very much like that. You have actual buyers, you have people that are qualified, that are doing the work, they're saying this wine is good. And so I think that adds a lot of credibility to the values, and also the objectiveness of the scoring tells me that this is something I should pay attention to. These are categories that I consider in my buying decisions. So therefore, I should give it a little more weight than you do a typical competition, I think.
Got it. What would you do, let's say, once you won an award? Like, one of the things that we're trying to encourage our winners is to sort of start, communicating with the trade. But some of the things that I would do myself is point of sale material, shelf stockers, sales sheets. So talk about what kind of trade materials are used when they are presenting in the restaurant industry.
Well, trade materials for us are not quite as effective in general, just because we tend to taste, based on our own palate. We'll take the wine on its own. We know the context, we understand, where the wine comes from and what it's trying to be, and then how well does the wine do that. And I think this competition format takes that into account better than a lot of others. When we're judging it, we'll see the basic details of the wine, the appellation, the varietal breakdown, alcohol pricing. All those things are things to take into account as to when you're putting the scores, as to what the quality is and what your scores are. And
so you think if there was a sales sheet, if we provided entrants with 1-page PDF where they had a score, but then also showing which what kind of judges were there, so that way when they're talking to the people, they know that, okay, these are the sommeliers who
I
judged
think
it.
that definitely sells. If you have, somms at top restaurants recommending this wine, if you have high-level people that are well-known recommending the wine, blind in this situation, and then you have these criteria. I think explaining the criteria is important, because the value scale, the would I pour this by the glass thing is important. The quality, typicity is very important to us because we want to know if a wine tastes like it's supposed to. If I'm looking to pour a Sancerre by the glass, I want it to taste like Sancerre. So that typicity score is high. So maybe you can break out specifically some of those things, the value, the typicity, the food friendliness. Some of the subcategories are very useful to present to buyers, as opposed to the overall score, whether it's a gold medal or a silver medal. You say, hey, this got an average 93 typicity scale and it got a 94 food friendliness scale. So you know this wine is going to taste like it's supposed to, and you know the quality is good. And then the value scale is like, yeah, this is good for the money compared to what we know about the world. And if we're thinking of, for example, Sancerre, if you say this is a Sancerre that has a high value score and it's typical, that's kind of all I need to know. If I know it's classic and I know it's a good value for the money, then I'm going to pull the trigger on that probably.
And we do package as well, right? Here is one of the criteria.
Yeah.
How do you personally score a good package for, define a good package for a restaurant?
Well, I think, the packaging is particularly important for the BTG because that's what you're going to be pouring, or you're going to see that as much. On the list, it's a list of wines, and when it gets to the table, it's important that it looks good on the table and it presents the value, because if you're marking it up to restaurant prices, it has to look like it's worth what you're charging for. But mostly that's more of a retail-oriented thing. I did make a lot of decisions based on the image and the packaging. And it's funny because a lot of times what's successful in retail doesn't work at all in restaurants, and vice versa. For example, black labels look great on tables. They're terrible in retail because they disappear in a set amongst wines. So the packaging is important. And I like the fact that we rate that, because sometimes you think everything is great about this wine. You see the package, you're just like, oh God, I can't pour that. It's got like a, laughing iguana on the label or something. It's just ridiculous for the setting of my restaurant. Yeah. So it's an important thing. And I think it's very valuable that the wineries get feedback on their packaging, because maybe they're trying to make the capital investment decision. Do we do rebranding? Do we do new packaging? Is it something that's important? And if this award is telling you, yes, your wine is great, everything is solid, but the packaging is terrible, that might give you the push to maybe do that redesign that's long overdue.
How do you differentiate which is good? I mean, what do you look for when you're looking for a wine by glass, and wine by bottle? So, show me different criteria that you consider in that.
Well, for me, by the glass, it has work to do. It has to represent a category, and it has to do it well. It has to be something that is familiar and a good example of what I'm looking for, whether it's a Russian River Chardonnay or a Sancerre or a Malbec or whatever. It has to.
So a famous category or.
Well, the way I always design programs was I had my core categories. I think we talked about this in the past. Was like I have my core categories that I want a value, premium offering, and then a value offering. And then my esoteric wines I love to play with, things like Ayurvedico or, Falangina, or just things that may be a little bit different for people that they're not necessarily going to walk in and ask for, those types of wines, but they're fun to introduce people to, and they're also very useful for pairings.
But in that, price would be... assuming the main
price,
factor.
Of course. I mean,
you can't go above something, right?
I mean, we see some wines in the competition where the wine is solid, the packaging is great, everything, but then the price is just unrealistic for pouring by the glass. You're like, I'd love to pour this by the glass, but I can't do it at that price. It doesn't fit into what my customers want to pay by the glass and what my program can support from a financial point of view. So it has to be a really good performer. QPR, quality price ratio, is really what we're looking for in any wine we buy, because you want those bottle lists. If you're going to pay a typical restaurant markup, you want it to feel like it's at least you're getting your money's worth out of that. So you want wines that over deliver whatever they do. And that's always the case. You want wines that perform better than they cost, because you're always playing catch up there. And so your BTG wines should be wines that have a mass appeal. And then to me, on the fringe, I like wines that I can confidently play with and really excite people by splashing it in the glass and say, you know what, this is going to go great with this dish. Maybe you keep in mind your menu and find wines that maybe a little bit off the beaten path, maybe a Lebanese red or something that's a little different that's really going to work with your food. And if you splash it for somebody and pour them a glass, they're going to be really excited. And then, you give them really high quality value options for the varieties that they're going to come in and ask for just by name. And they're going to want a Chardonnay, they're going to want a Pinot, they're going to want a Cabernet. So you try to find the best wines that deliver that value for them.
I want to know what is a good wine bag, right? When a sales rep walks into the restaurant, what kind of things you want. You've done a little bit of sales as well for district.
Sure, of course,
right?
of course.
So what is a great toolbox and what it should have in, just the checkpoints there?
You mean as far as how to fill out a bag to present?
Yeah.
When I go show wine, I like my little 6-pocket bag. I don't like to roll in with the giant wheel thing because I want to be able to focus and present quality products that are tailor-made, that are going to work for the person I'm sitting across the table from. So maybe I'll have 12 wines in the car and I'll pull 6 wines out that are right for this account. And I want to hit wines that are going to work for them. So I think before you go into your account, think about really what's on the menu and what the wine list is and what might appeal to this person you're going to be sitting across the table from, so you don't waste their time. I find that if I could go in with 6 bottles that really hit places that they want to go, my success rate is very
So let's say
very
you got
strong.
the bottles. What about other things like wine opener, tasting cups, shelf talkers? What all you are ready with when you're putting it out?
Well, I just go in with the wines basically. It's really about that. Those things are great for support. If you have wine openers, the servers are always losing them. So if you have branded wine openers, if they're quality wine openers, I don't want garbage wine openers. I think if you have a really cheap opener you hand out with your brand on it, it connotes the fact that your brand may be cheap because we couldn't spring for just like the worst quality openers. So do something really good. I love the Rialtos. I think they're easy to brand. The Muranos are high quality 2-steppers that servers can use. They're durable and they're quality. So if you put your name on that and you see it every day, you're like, oh yeah, I like this opener. I like this brand. So I think those are great. Never going to have enough champagne stoppers, but again, quality. The kind with the prongs that clip over are much better than the kind that pop on. And sometimes people just get the cheap ones and they're terrible. So I don't use those. They clutter up my drawer. I don't want to have anything to do with those. Give me something that's good and maybe just one.
Do you think wearing a company t-shirt when they're going adds value or takes away value?
No, I don't really see that. I think you got to be professional in your presentation. You got to meet people at a level of respect so that you are a serious person, a partner across the table that brings me wines that I can use. And so therefore I respect you and I respect your time. And so you want to meet them.
If they're in their company branded t-shirt, you
Yeah,
respect them that they're doing.
I don't see that because usually most of the people that I want to see with, they have a multiple things.
Presentations.
So they're not really presenting a t-shirt
Understood.
or a brand. That might be something that happens more in a spirits thing or something. There's more specific brand oriented people. And we do see ride with people, but a lot of times they're just in kind of the standard uniform. And, it's having somebody across the table you can relate with, that's serious, that understands your needs and is there to help and provide information at your level, wherever that level is really the most valuable thing. Again, some of you don't have a lot of time. So if you get to the point and show me wines that I can use that are, and teach me something that's useful that I can take to my servers and take to the floor and improve the guest experience, then that's something that I really appreciate and I can use. So anyone that performs on that level and meets me there is someone that I respect and I'll give them the time. They're easier to make an appointment. Those are the people you develop relationships over the long term, and they end up being people that have a large chunk of your list because they're someone you can count on. And they're not just there to pitch one thing and then go and check a box. They're someone that, you can call if you need to send a guest to their winery or whatever you need. They're partners in your program, and it's important to develop those relationships.
Great. Scott, thank you very much.
All right. Thanks.
Appreciate it.